Coming up next, man, you know, I've interviewed over 800 famous musicians over my career, and I have to say, today's guest is my all-time favorite. He's my favorite person in the music business. Humble guy, great person, great dude. Next up, full uncut interview with Huey Lewis. I mean, from 1984 to 1988, nobody was bigger. He had so many classic hits. I mean, The Heart of Rock and Roll, Heart and Soul, Jacob's Ladder, I Want a New Drug, Stuck With You, The Power of Love, Hip to Be Square, and a dozen more. Huey tells a story of all of them here and some of the best stories you'll ever hear on this channel. I've only shared some tidbits from this interview over the years, but here's the whole thing. Let's do it. Well, let me go back. I want to go back to the very, very beginning and ask you, Huey, what was it for you, whether it was a song that you heard on the radio, something that you saw, or someone in your life that kicked open the door to your mind and made you want to pursue music? What was like the moment? Do you remember?
Yeah, my dad was a doctor by trade, but he was a drummer and a piano player.
Yeah.
Was his love, and he had a set of drums set up in the living room all the time. And he used to sit me on the drums and make me play time when I was a kid. So we had music around all the time, but it was always big band stuff and never many singers, you know, because the old man he loved jazz and he liked the big bands. He just thought the singers were getting in the way. And so I gravitated towards the singing thing because it was something my old man didn't do, you know.
Well, and then some of the records that you grew up with, tell me about that inspiration.
Well, you know, as a kid, we listened to Top 40 radio, the radio thing. And we had, what were some Bobby Rydell.
In a world without love.
But the R&B thing was what got me, you know, Now That I Can Dance and that. And immediately, as soon as I started playing harmonica, I was probably 12 or 13, I discovered Muddy Waters.
You got a boy child coming, gonna be a son of a gun.
Sonny Boy, through the harmonica, Little Walter, Sonny Boy Williamson, and I became a blues snob, an absolute blues snob. And I wouldn't listen to radio or any of that stuff, just so it was all blues for me for a while. And then when I got to college, I joined a band, and it was kind of not top 40, but we did cover tunes. We covered what was going on the FM radios at that point. And so I found that although certain kinds of music were more fun to listen to for me, all music was fun to play. And so it kind of broke I became much less of a snob and started to appreciate all kinds of music.
On Clover, they, of course, were the backing band for Elvis Costello. My Aim Is True, you were with Clover.
Detectives. Ooh, you're so cute.
And then, of course, Bob Brown, from Pablo Cruz, found your demo tape, helped you land a record deal. The self-titled record that first came out was kind of largely ignored at first, but really picture this in '82. Mm-hmm. Some huge memories for me, because I remember my dad having the record, seeing that cover with you on the front, and the song, of course, Do You Believe in Love, which was written by Mutt Lange.
Right.
I wanna love you all over.
I always read that you guys didn't necessarily want to cut that at first because you wanted to do your own stuff, but you brought such an amazing vocal on that song. Tell me the story about when he brought it to you, because it was actually called something different when he first brought it.
Yeah, it was. Well, with Picture This, we decided we were going to produce ourselves, which was, you have to remember the climate. There was no internet, there was no jam band. It was radio was king, and radio in those days. Top 40 radio was invented with the advent of push-button radio in Fresno. Yep. I think in the 50s, when radios were, and this guy opined that as long as you didn't play something that people didn't like, they would stick with your station. Yeah. So the idea was to narrow your playlist, top 40, just play the 40 best songs over and over and over. Well, by 1980, it was called CHR, Contemporary Hit Radio. In the 60s, of course, FM radio came and played anything and everything, and they were hardly programmed. Disc jockeys would play their own music and all that stuff. But by 1980, everything was programmed. And the only format that mattered at all was called Contemporary Hit Radio, CHR. And that was probably 28 songs, not even 40. And by the way, if you were 28 or 27, you only got a play or two a day. If you were top 5, they played you 8 or 9 times a day. So that radio was king. MTV started in the early 80s, but their playlist exactly mirrored radio and records' playlist.
Yeah.
Exactly. So radio is king. And we knew there was only one avenue to success. There was no jam band stuff, any of that. So
Right.
you had to have a hit single. And that was the hardest thing for us because we were kind of a rootsy band and my voice wasn't classic top 40 stuff. And so and we decided if we wanted to do that, we ought to do that ourselves because, if the commerciality thing is a slippery slope and we wanted to maintain our integrity and all this stuff. So we convinced our manager, and then our manager convinced the record label that we should produce ourselves. And so with Picture This, we began to aim songs at radio and learn how to make records for radio. And you remember in those days, everything had to be truncated.
Yep.
The idea, if you didn't get to the hook in 30 seconds, you were out of there. So that's why intros are smart. It's interesting, come the complete opposite of the jam band thing where everything was. So that's what we did. We chiseled and abbreviated and truncated and distilled and tried to make this thing. And so we wrote songs of ours, most of the stuff we wrote, but I called Mutt just to cover our bases. And Mutt's a good friend of mine and said, hey, you got any songs, we could do? And he sent, We both believe in love.
Yeah.
And I rewrote the lyric a little bit and we cut it. And just as a kind of a, make sure we had our bases covered, and it was our first single.
Oh, you better be believe it too.
Like I said, to me, it sounded like new wave doo-wop. I mean, it had an essence of new wave in it.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what the news kind of had that. I think
that's more of an image thing. I mean, we looked like that kind of,
But the synthesizers. But also, the vocal on that really introduced the world to what you were about.
Right. Well, we were a roots band. The idea was, how do we make this contemporary? Well, the stuff we love is soul music and R&B and early rock and roll and all that stuff. So how do we make this contemporary? So we used drum machines.
I was walking down a one-way street,
which were brand new. In 1980, we heard that Roger Lynn had captured Jeff Piccaro's drums in a machine. What? Yeah, he's got Piccaro's drums in the. What do you mean? It's a chip. A chip? What's a chip? Oh, that's just a chip you put in. That's his. So you're kidding me. So we got to try that. So Bad is Bad for him was dish, dish.
Hey, wait for me.
Dish, dish, which is a machiney, and then the doo-wop. So we were. The idea was to put both of those things together. The old and the new and all, and
the harmonies on that song.
And
that
would be
great.
that would be our little niche. We figured. And with the sports album, we aimed at fully 6 songs because "Do You Believe in Love" was kind of a hit, but that record sold, I think, 250,000 copies.
Went to number 7
when it came out, which was like break even because it was expensive in studio. So with the sports album, we really had to have a hit, and we aimed 6 songs at radio because radio was king. We knew we needed a hit. We didn't know we were going to have 6 of them.
Let's talk about sports. In '83, and you guys self-produced because PRICELESS, they were in England and they kind of had their own thing, so they allowed you.
That's
and
right.
I remember reading you saying something like, "Can you imagine CBS never would have let us do that,
That's right.
or a big label like that, but PRICELESS because they were out there." So you produced
and they were private. It was Chris Wright and Terry Ellis. There were 2 guys, and they were out there. They didn't have the kind of control that a big label did. Yeah.
Exactly. And so this album, one of the biggest blockbusters of the 80s, and the 80s were that time for those huge albums, and it came right out, Thriller. In fact, this is hard to comprehend, but this was the second only to Michael Jackson Thriller in 1984, as far as sales go. Only 5 records in '84 went to number 1. This was one of them, Michael Jackson Thriller, Footloose, all that. But talking about that is Heart and Soul. My second favorite Huey song of all time. Written by Mike Chapman, Nicky Chin, who also wrote Kiss You All Over, Exile.
Right.
But that was number 8 pop, number 1 rock And that was such an amazing rock and roll song because Exile's version is like kind of disco. It's got a little bit of disco in it. You guys is straight ahead rock and roll, and it felt like you guys brought even more melodies to it than were already there. There's like 8 different melodies to that song.
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, that song, interestingly, was the last thing we recorded for Sports in exactly the same way as Do You Believe in Love was the last thing we recorded for Picture This. We had written all these songs, but we knew we needed a hit. And I heard this. We knew Mike Chapman because he had come up and flirted with producing us back in the day. And I had asked him if he had any songs, and he sent me this tune. And it was, to me, to my ears, commercialist. And I now know it's the Exile version. I didn't even know that. But I said, wow, this is a hit, you know. Let's just do it. And so we did that just to kind of cover our base, you know. It was the last thing we recorded, and we pretty much just aped the record. I think. I mean, I think we did exactly the same thing that Mike Chapman did with Exile. I think. I mean,
I don't know. I listened to them both back to back. That's a really rocking song. There's a lot going on in that, but always cuts through the record.
The reason there's so many hooks is because it's Mike Chapman, Nicky Chin song. I mean, that's the kind of stuff they write. They write pop music, and they're great at it. And so, but the approach was to harden it up a little bit. I mean, you're quite right. But I knew it was commercial, but we tried to harden it up a little bit. But a funny story, you know, I was pitched the song from a publisher at PRICELESS Records, a nice guy who pitched me this, who sent it to me because Mike Chapman had contacted him, I guess, and he sent me the song. And I went, man, that's great. So we cut it, and we were mixing it in the studio. Or I guess we were cutting it in the studio somewhere in LA. And, I went to the bathroom. I go out of my studio and I walk down the hallway to another studio. And in the other studio, I hear Heart and Soul coming out. The Bus Boys were were cutting Heart and Soul also at the same time. So the publisher had pitched the song to 2 different people, and they were cutting it at the same time. And I thought, oh my gosh, so maybe we shouldn't. But I listened to it. I perched outside the door, and I thought, nah, our version's a little better. So,
well, and the hand claps too definitely helped that.
Thank God for the hand claps.
I know, no kidding. Well, I Want a New Drug, number 6 pop, and number 1 on the dance charts. I mean, that's pretty mind-blowing. You know, you guys have had a number 1 hit on almost every different chart.
Right.
You know what that song is from the first guitar strain. And so many hooks in that song. Mm-hmm. I always read that you wrote that just in a few minutes. You were on your way to your attorney's house.
Exactly.
Tell me that story. I love that.
Yeah, I was just woke up after a gig, and I had an early meeting with my lawyer and Bob Gordon for a publishing deal, and I didn't feel very good, and I drive in my car up there, and I had this idea for this song lyrically, and as soon as I walked in the door, he said, "Hey," I said, "Bob, give me a pencil and paper," and I literally wrote the whole song down. We put music to it, and we missed a couple times. And then Chris Hayes, my cohort, called me up one day. I remember I was home. He called me up. He says, "I got it." I said, "What?" "Want a New Drug, I got it." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Come on over." He says, "I'll be over." Came over. We put the little tape recorder. He played the lick. I sang it. And it was done.
Well, the video echoes the origin story in a way.
Yeah.
Because you're driving along.
That's
and of
it.
course, you got the
That's it.
classic black pants, the red jacket, the shades. I mean, that was the...
Well, I pinched the beginning off Harper.
Yeah, it's Paul Newman.
Paul Newman Harper, where the first opening scene, he's got the Porsche.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's hung over, and he puts there's no coffee, so he takes the old coffee, puts it in there, gets it. He fills the thing with ice, puts his face in the ice.
It's also, you listen to it now, it's fun to go back to listen to things as I get different ages in my 30s and my 40s, the songs have new meaning. it's kind of a bit of a funny indictment on the pharmaceutical industry. I know that wasn't the point, but you see all those commercials all the time that talk about all the side effects from drugs.
Side effects may include unpleasant taste, headache, dizziness, and morning drowsiness.
33 years later, whatever it's been, it still resonates in that fashion.
Yeah, and I remember the label, the fun story with that was the label's all worried about want a new drug, you know. They were worried about the title. So the single that they didn't want it to be a single. They said it wasn't a single. Our first single was Heart and Soul. And I think the second single was New Drug. Was New Drug? Or
it was, yeah. I Want a New Drug was second
and
single.
they didn't want it. They were afraid of it because of the title.
Because this was in the Just Say No era.
Exactly. And we played a gig in New York City, and they came out, the record label and the people, and Want a New Drug was by far the most popular song. So then they decided they were going to make it a single. They would allow it to be a single, second single, but they put it out and said, I Want a New Drug, parentheses, called Love. Because they were afraid people wouldn't get it. I said, hey, have you ever heard I've Got You Under My Skin?
No kidding.
Have you ever heard it? Listen to the lyrics sometime.
I've got you under my skin.
It has that perfect Huey Lewis in the News, but the saxophone and the guitar come together when the breakdown happens after you say, I'm alone with you, baby, and then it goes into that. That's what you guys did so well. That was so unique because I just can't think of anybody in that time that put those two together so well, saxophone and guitar.
That was the idea. The idea is to guitar relief a little bit with the horns. But the other dirty little secret about that song, you know, you look at that Sports album and it looks like a band in a pub just kind of jamming, just doing it rootsy, just playing. Want a New Drug is programmed piece by piece.
Sequence,
starts
right?
with dum 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 dum. Yeah. Michael Wolff, the great Austrian producer, was next door doing We Built This City. And I said, hey, how do you do that with it? And he set up the track for us. So the bass was, now Billy played live drum overdubs and crashes and stuff. But this kick and snare and bass and were machined in there. And that was, this album, Sports, was assembled piece by piece. And since then, we've done records where there's no assembly at all. We've done them completely live. So we've recorded every which way.
That's how you did your first record. Right?
First record completely live. And then this one was the piece together. And then after that, we started to make more live records again.
Well, as a kid hearing this on the radio, it sure sounded a lot like another record that came out a year after, but we won't talk about that.
Oh yeah, well, I can't.
You got asked to do something for the biggest blockbuster in 1984.
Right.
But you were already doing something for the biggest blockbuster.
Hold it, fellas. I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
Also, Weird Al covered, did his version, I Want a New Duck.
I want a new duck. Won't try to bite.
And then Saturday Night Live, you played that on Saturday Night Live, and I read this a long time ago. You're the only person in the history of Saturday Night Live that ever announced your band on stage, that actually
said the name of the band.
Yeah, said the name of each band member.
Musical guest, Huey Lewis and the News.
Did you have to ask Lauren for that?
No, I used to do that every time. At the end, we hold a big sustain chord, and I go, this is Johnny Cole, Chris Hayes, Billy Gibson, blah, blah, and I'm Huey Lewis, and you just heard the news, I did that once somewhere, and my manager loved it. So he said, do that all the time.
Yeah,
so,
and that's the only time that's ever been done. And then, of course, it was Gleeified. Did you ever see it when they did it on Glee?
Do I have to put my fingers in the holes?
The Simpsons. Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Butthead, come on, give me the remote. This sucks. This isn't funny, Butthead. Come on.
Family Guy.
You've done. Yeah, there've been a lot in Family Guy.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I want my Huey Lewis CD back.
Well, I want a new drug.
Okay, at least you've been using it.
The Heart of Rock and Roll, your second straight number 6 hit, and it went to the top 5 on the rock charts. But a song with such precision, phenomenal hook, the heartbeat sound. Tell me about, is that where it kind of started?
Lyrically, we'd had a gig in Cleveland. You know, we're from San Francisco, and we'd heard that Cleveland was the great rock and roll town, ground zero for rock and roll. And we're from Marin County. We had the 60s. We had the Grateful Dead and saw Hendrix at Fillmore, Cream at Fillmore, and how can Cleveland be the heart? I mean, come on, come on. How can they compare with us musically? So we were biased. We go to the Agora in Cleveland, and like our first gig we ever have there, and it was an unbelievable gig, and the fans were just tremendous, and they were, and generally they're better fans in Cleveland than they are in San Francisco. They really are, and they're more appreciative. And so we'd had this great gig, and in the morning we're driving out, and I bought this T-shirt that shows the skyline of Cleveland, and it's smoky, industrial-looking town, and it says, "You got to be tough, Cleveland. You got to be tough." You know what? And it hit me. I said, "You know what, guys? The heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland. It really is."
They say the heart of rock and roll is still beating, and from what I see.
Wow, that's a pretty good title for a song. And they went, "Heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland?" So, okay. So then I reformed it to be the heart of rock and roll is still beating. But that was the idea. The idea was that there's real rock and roll in other places than LA and New York. Music is of the people. When you go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's some great musicians in Tulsa, Oklahoma, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, and when you see a good band that comes from Tulsa, Oklahoma, they're from that place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's really cool, I think. And so
that's
what the song was trying to say.
Well, I got introduced from that song because I loved it so much. My dad said, "You know what, another song you liked that was popular when I was a kid is Dancing in the Streets." It kind of reminded me because they're doing the call out to all the different places. And what I loved about it is talk about New York, you start out with that, and it's kind of the new wave and post-punk scene there. But then when you go to LA and Hollywood, and I want to talk about a specific lyric about Sunset Strip, you're talking about hard rock and the neon lights and the pretty girls, all that kind of stuff. But I love it when you say they play their music, that hard rock music, they like it with a lot of flash, but it's still the same old backbeat rhythm that really, really kicks them in. And my friends and I loved that because that was a way for us to be able to say ass.
Same old backbeat rhythm that really, really kicks them in the.
Well, of course, you opened the 85 Grammys with that song, and that was
Right.
killer. And it's been used. Did you see when they use it in The Office?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Take it away,
Mike gave me a list of his top 10 Springsteen songs. 3 of them were Huey Lewis in the News, 1 was Tracy Chapman, Fast Car, and my personal favorite, Short People.
Night Rider and A-Team.
Paid for them.
Yeah, not kidding. And of course, it's sent out to all these different radio stations, and they got to use the names of their cities.
And then, of course, the label wanted us to do. I mean, the story there. The label wanted us to do every city in the world, every city that had a radio station. So we go into New York, and they put the thing, and now I go, Boston, and and then so I do like 40 cities in America, which is a little silly. It's tough to, but I get all this on the ride out because they were going to give them special copies so they could. So I do like all these cities. Now we go, let's do Canada now. I said, Canada? We're going to do Canada? Yeah, let's do Canada. Okay. Toronto, Yeah. And now we go, and finally I go, Halifax. And I went, wait a second. The heart of rock and roll just can't be in Halifax. I can't sell Halifax. And the irony is that now for our tour, was it the sports? No, I don't know, for, I guess, Small World Tour, like 2 or 3 years later, we go up to Nova Scotia to rehearse. Because we're going to play Canada first and then go play America. We did like huge shows in Canada, hockey rinks and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And our second gig was in Halifax. We go out down to the town, and it's the funkiest little town. And there's this cool little blues bar, and there's this great band playing. They're playing like Cajuns, like New Orleans kind of stuff. I mean, second line stuff, and playing great funk. And it's a great little blues town.
So you realize that the heart of rock and roll
really is the heart of rock and roll.
It can be.
I could have sung Halifax all those years.
Did you ever have to throw out like Boise, Idaho, or Billings?
Sure, I think we're somewhere there's Boise out there. I'm sure there
I love it. I want to jump in and talk about Walking on a Thin Line, because I think that's my favorite song you guys have ever, epic songwriting. I think the lyrics to that, you know, sometimes in my bed at night I curse the dark and I pray for light, and sometimes the light's no consolation.
Right.
I mean, I always read that when I read the lyrics because I loved, it was a catchy tune, but it was so poetic. It was saying something a lot deeper. When I went to the lyrics and read it, it seemed to me that you were talking about like a Vietnam vet. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was written for the vets. It's written by a guy called Andre Pessis, who's a good friend of ours, and Kevin Wells. Kevin Wells was a drummer in Clover, the last drummer in Clover, and he wrote the music, and Andre wrote the lyric, and they wanted me to sing it for a demo. And so I just, as a favor to them, I said, sure, I'll sing it. I hadn't heard it. I fell in love with the tune. You know, I just thought, this is great. We'll do it.
I mean, the tears and the sweat only mock my desperation.
And it's written for the Vietnam vets. And, you know, now we dedicate to all the veterans. But it was a different time. You got to remember in Vietnam, that was we had the draft there. It was we had a lot of discontent. And, it was a really tough time. And I think the song, you know, for those of us who lived in that time, it rings. You know? Yeah. Well,
and I love your live versions of it. Every time I can hear a different live version of it, because there's a lot of passion there, and I love it. Labeled as Freaks Loose on the Streets of the City, you know. And when you talk it in the second verse, when you say, "Taught me how to shoot to kill," I love. That's one of the greatest sounds in a song ever. The way that you guys got that on record.
I can't remember how we did that. I think.
Shotgun.
I think we actually did a shot. We actually shot, you know, in Hard to Rock and Roll, the New York is everything saying, nobody said everything.
Yeah.
That's a real car that we mic'd up outside the studio.
Sounds like
an old, like 1954 Dodge, you know, with one of those old horns. And I think we mic'd up a shotgun.
Yeah.
Or we got it some raw source or something. But it's a gun.
It's incredible. And if this is it. You know, that was actually another one of my favorite. I mean, this album's just full of hits, but third straight number 6 hit, and, you know, it was on the AC charts, the pop charts, all over. But that was such a great modern doo-wop song. And another thing that you guys did so well that I've never really read about, but you guys are masters of the pre-chorus. You guys write like, and the pre-chorus is kind of it's a lost art, you know, leading up to the chorus.
B sections we call them, but same thing.
Yeah, Brits call them something different. You know,
and you know, that's one. It's very perceptive because, you know, in the old days there was a popular music formula, American popular music formula, and it's like a haiku. It starts with an intro. Usually it's in 4/4, can be in 3/4. Never in 5/4, you know. It's in 3/4, 4/4, and there's 8 bars intro typically, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus out, or verse, B section, chorus, bridge out, and these formulas were tried and true in every song, American popular
Beatles
song.
did it so well.
Yeah,
as well.
everybody did since time began. Since Satchmo invented the thing. And in the 90s, they threw away the B sections.
They did.
And now the bridges go, and then the harmony goes, and, you know, and there's less melody and all that, less chords. But the beat is tremendous. You got to admit, the beat is unbelievable anymore. But so these things change. But I actually think that one of the reasons that people like, you know, 80s, whatever 80s music is that it's still most of it, and still some of it does today, but then in the 80s, most of it, if not all of it, adhered to that American popular music formula. And if this is it, is written in that formula. You know?
Yeah, because you have that. So I love that we have really good headphones. You can hear that 50s piano figure going on, you know, in the background. But then, you know, and the great backup vocals, but, you know, I'll be all right one way or, I mean, that's my favorite part of the song. That's not the chorus. That's leading into the chorus. If this is it, you know. And there's a great sadness in that pre-chorus. I mean, it's just cool how it comes out because it's a song about, you know, facing up to the relationship woes or whatever. But there's a real sadness that you hit with your voice there that in a pop song is really cool.
I love the song, and it's just songs kind of come to you,
Yeah.
And that one, for example, Johnny wrote the progression, but we couldn't figure out what to call it and what to do. And I remember working on it forever and not being able to get it. And then I'm on the bus. We're driving on the bus, and I'm in my bunk, and it hit me. I got it. And I remember coming out of the bunk and said, Johnny was in the back lounge. I said, I got it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, it's funny when things come together like that. I wish I knew, how to make that happen.
I know, because you do it every time.
I do it all the time.
Well, I want to ask you about We Are the World, because some other interviews I've done in the past, they've mentioned you. When I heard this record, because they played on every radio station at the same time, I have my favorite singers of all time, and my favorites, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Huey Lewis, were my three favorite singers. And so when I hear
you got all three of them on the same
record. All three of them on
record.
the same record, and then of course my dad, Ray Charles, was his favorite, and
That's
Stevie
my
Wonder.
guy too, man. I was so nervous. I was so nervous with Ray. Ray was right there. I could not, for the life of me, introduce myself to Ray Charles. I just hovered around and watched him. It's awesome.
I love it.
It's true, we make a better day, just you and me.
And I love these stories that you were talking to Willie Nelson about your golf game.
Yeah.
And then Bob Dylan comes up and talks to you, and he knew about sports. I mean, he knows all about modern music.
Yeah, he does. He
played here last night.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Where, this hall?
In fact, I forgot to mention that we're at the beautiful Eccles Theater here in Salt Lake City. It is a beautiful theater.
It's gorgeous.
I love it.
Really, brand spanking new from the looks of it, too, right?
Just beautiful. But yeah, he
and
played.
I bet it sounds great.
He played here last night,
Cool.
Bob Dylan, but I heard it. He came up and offered you a song.
Yeah, he's a god. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
Dylan. But we're taking a break, and Willie Nelson comes up and says, "I hear you're playing golf." I said, "Yeah, man." And I hear you do. He says, "Yeah, what do you do? We put our clubs on the bus." I said, "That's what we do too, man. It kills time. It's great." He says, "I know it's great." And we're doing this, and Bob sees that and comes over and goes, "Are you guys talking about golf?" Incredulously. And we said, "Yeah." He says, "You play golf on the road?" I said, "Yeah." He said, and Bob, I'll never forget, he goes, "Man," he says, "that's outrageous." I said, "No, Bob, Nashville skyline was outrageous. This is just golf."
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, well, that was a thrill. And he wrote me a little note, a wonderful little note about how he likes sports and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it just blew my mind.
Probably a pinch me moment for you. Wow.
Oh, man.
There's a choice we're making. We're saving.
Kenny Loggins told me that Prince was supposed to sing and he didn't show up.
That's right.
And Kenny said to Quincy, he said, "Hey, man," he's like, "who should we get to do this line?" He said, "Get Huey Lewis, man.
Did he?
He is incredible. He's got
Did Kenny do that? That's great.
Yeah.
Because all I know, I'd finish the chorus thing. I'm over here and say, "Q wants you," and he sent for me, and he brings me in, and he's got Michael there. He says, "Smelly." He called him Smelly.
Yeah, yeah.
He said, "Smelly, sing Huey the line," and he goes, "Just believe, no way we can fall." He sings and says, "Sing it, Huey." I go, "Just believe, no way we can." You got it. Good. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then we went right in.
He said, "I don't think Huey knows that. If you talk to him, you tell him that, because I've never been able to tell him
I
that."
didn't know that.
Yeah, because Kenny's become a friend, but he was
Good
telling
for
me.
him. Thanks.
Yeah, he was telling me. I mean, he had a lot of compliments. He said, "I just thought Huey had one of the best voices in all
that is
music."
great. That is
But
sweet.
he also told me about the comment that Paul Simon had, the comment of the night.
Who told you that?
Kenny.
Well, then let Kenny say it.
He already did.
Okay.
So. Yeah, what a funny story. But
It's
anyway.
funny. I mean, it's a funny joke, but but by the way, John Denver was a great guy. Man.
Oh yeah,
and never sang out of tune.
I love John Denver.
His pitch was unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was a accomplished.
Oh yeah.
Guy,
Rocky Mountain High, one of the greatest songs ever.
And he could just you could wake him up out of bed.
Yeah.
And he could sing pure as driven snow, man.
Oh yeah.
He was talented.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain High.
There's so many great stories from that, but hanging out with Michael Jackson. I mean, at his peak,
Yeah. He asked me, he had all kinds of things about, because he was here and I was here. So, Humberto, when we first go to do the lead vocal, there's 5 microphones set up and there's probably 15 of us or whatever it is. So we share microphones. One guy steps up, sings, next guy steps up, sings, next microphone like that. And Humberto wanted to get one complete pass because there's ambience in the room and you don't want it to sound like it's chopped up. So we tried to get all the way through it. Well, they start, and Stevie Wonder's such a talent. He never do anything twice the same way. So he's fooling around with his line. Lionel goes, there comes a time when we heed a certain call and the world must come together as one. And so he goes, there are people dying. And he wait, stop. I got another idea. He's such a genius.
Oh, yeah.
And so they'd stop the tape and they go back and start the take again. Well, I'm way over here at the end of the thing. So I don't even get a shot at my line. I've never sung my line yet. And now they go 2 or 3, 4 times now. Al Jarreau messes up and they get that way. They start again from the top. I said, hey, Humberto, can you keep going even if they mess up so I can rehearse my line? I mean, you got you got Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, and Al Jarreau. Yeah. And I'm trying to, So that was because he came out there just the mic. So then he let us go. And Michael was so smart, when we get done, when he says, that's a good idea, man. Let's practice, make the thing. And so I said, yep. So now we do a take all the way around and it's not great, whatever. Well, all right, let's do another one, says Humberto. Boom, we can do another one that's really good all the way around, pretty good. And I see through the glass, Humberto and Quincy goes, yeah, flag that one, or whatever it is. And Humberto goes, all right, let's just do another one like that. And Michael tugs on my sleeve. He says, they're going to keep that one, aren't they? I said, yeah, they're keeping it. He goes, that was the one. I said, I know. But what a great thing. Right?
Oh, I know.
Sharing with Michael right here. And it was so cool.
You and Cindy and Kim, though.
Yeah.
Just incredible. That part right there.
Well, and then what happened there, they at the last line, Quincy says, Huey, sing a harmony. Yeah. Well, that's an artistic consideration.
I know.
I got to make that up.
I know.
In front of all these people.
Wow.
My legs were literally shaking. Literally, my knees were shaking. It was unbelievable.
Power of Love, Back to the Future. Sports was popular. Robert Zemeckis, he kind of visualized that this is Marty's favorite band, Huey Lewis and the News. So he comes to you and tell me the story about how that all came together.
They asked to have a meeting with us. That's Spielberg, who produced it, Zemeckis, who directed, and Bob Gale, who wrote it. The way they framed it is they said, look, we've just written this film, and our lead character, Marty McFly, his favorite band would be Huey Lewis and the News. So we thought, why not ask you to write a song? I said, fine, love to. Don't know how to write for film necessarily. And frankly, don't much care for writing a song called Back to the Future. And they went, no problem. We don't care what it's called. We just want one of your songs. And that turned out to be super smart because the next thing I said, well, I'll just send you the next thing we write, which was Power of Love. And so they used it in a chase scene and they loved it. The song came out and we had just come off our sports album. So and it was the next thing released after sports. And it went to #1 immediately, but immediately is 12 weeks or 9 to 12 weeks because it starts out. So they didn't release the movie till the song was #1. And so Zemeckis to this day credits it with the best marketing release ever because the film came out and this was before there were a lot of songs with films. And so when the film came out, the song was already #1. So everybody went to see the film based on that. But now when the film got so huge, boy, did it help us everywhere else in the world. Asia.
Well, yeah. You and Chris, I had read that you had the song pretty much finished, and then Johnny comes in with the dut.
No, that's not Johnny's contribution. Johnny's contribution was the bridge a little bit. We used to go to the bridge twice, and Johnny rearranged it a little bit. Johnny's he's a great arranger. He's got a great ear for, and that's one of the secrets to our band is that we all contribute. One guy writes something, and then all by himself. Another guy comes in and reads it for the first time. He can immediately punch it up in 2 or 3 things. And that's what Johnny did, the power. It was Chris's music, pure and simple, the bridge and all that stuff. But
the other thing is in the movie when it comes in again, because it actually comes in again when he gets the flyer.
Bye.
That's the power of love.
That shows the power of that song. You just hear that one vocal. It's such a catchy song, but Back in Time, to me, was just as good of a song. In fact, I liked it a little bit better.
Cool.
But did you get the script? Because that's basically a summary of the movie.
They had written the film by then. We'd seen the film and all that stuff, and they wanted something for the credits. So because it was the credits outro, I decided I'd just write this for the film.
And that's how the soundtrack album went gold, because of that song, because the soundtrack album came out later too.
Well, what's interesting is now that was before soundtracks, really, for the most part. And so that soundtrack album had Power Love, probably had Back in Time.
It had Back in Time,
and was there a Phil Collins song maybe?
There was an Eric Clapton song. There was a Lindsey Buckingham song on there.
And then Source
music.
music.
And then Alan Silvestri's.
And then Source music, Alan Silvestri's music. So it wasn't a great package. Well, Dirty Dancing, which was a soundtrack album.
A couple years later,
it sold 13 million copies.
I know.
So that's what a mistake that was.
I know.
I mean, that thing could have been, and we never really sold, we weren't allowed to put Power Love on our record, except in the rest of the world in Europe.
Yeah.
So we never, of all of our songs, we probably made less money on Power Love than
crazy.
Actually, Power Love, on the surface, had nothing to do with the movie. The lyric has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
And there's no real love object in the movie even. The way these things work best is when the song stands on its own and then the movie stands on its own. If the song is clearly written for the movie, it kind of diminishes the song somehow. I use that as an example today because we have a new song used in an animated film, Animal Crackers. And that's a classic example of that. And the song won't
It's an afterthought in a way.
And the song won't stand on its own because it's the stepchild of this film. And Zemeckis was really smart that way. I mean, they all were, because they could have clearly had a song that had something to do with the movie and had somebody write it. But they didn't. They chose Power Love.
And of course, Power Love was nominated for a Grammy and Oscar and the whole nine yards.
Nothing. Zero. Not.
Which I was so
blank.
frustrated. I
no
watched
Oscar,
the Oscars.
No Grammy.
Yeah.
No, we were nominated for like 10 Grammys.
I know.
1. Bruce Springsteen just killed us. Man.
Yeah.
9 or something for Born in the USA.
Of course, when Marty plays it on the guitar, him and the pinheads.
Right.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
I loved that as a kid. I was like, that's Huey Lewis. I knew it. I knew it was you. My dad's like, I don't think so. Because I saw that movie once a week. Because cool. it came out in our little...
Well, then it worked, because that was our idea. That all along, Zemeckis and Gail Bobby, the two Bobs, said, you got to get to be in this somehow. I said, no, that's silly. Don't worry about it. And so finally, they kept harping on me. I finally said, okay, look, disguise me. If you do it uncredited, disguise, and make it an inside joke thing, I'll do it. And the funny story there, he was the head of the label at CBS, Jack Crago.
Yeah, Jack Crago.
He was a wonderful guy, man.
Yeah.
I don't know where he is today, but he was a great guy. He was the head of it, but he's a real square guy. He'd say, "How's it going, Huey?" He talked really slow and purposeful, And so when I went, he was a brown shoes guy, kind of brown coats. And I show up on the set, and there's your wardrobe. And they showed me the wardrobe, and it was Jack Crago. So I just adopted Jack Crago, and I did it as Jack Crago. Now it's 6 months or 3 months later. I'm in his office in Chicago, in New York, and I go up to the office, and he goes, "Huey, I've just seen your masterful performance in Back to the Future." I said, "Well, I think," he says, "and I'm thinking you should probably win an Oscar, or maybe I should." So he got it.
He knew it. He knew that you were playing Crago. I love it.
That's pretty cool.
Well, Back in Time, to me, is just as good of a song. In fact, I liked it a little bit better.
Cool.
But did you get the script? Because that's basically a summary of the movie.
They had written the film by then. We'd seen the film and all that stuff, and they wanted something for the credits. So because it was the credits outro, I decided I'd just write this for the film. And so we wrote it for the film. Sean and I wrote that for the film.
Yeah. So jumping into 4. So 4, number 1, the U.S., Japan, Canada, New Zealand. So it really did pay off, Power Love.
Yeah, and in the rest of the world, Power Love is on 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
It's not on 4 in America.
Yeah, exactly. So this was just as successful because it had actually more top 10 hits than Sports did. Yeah, had 5. So discussing, you know, and this album to me, listening to it now in my 40s, it's totally different than I listened to it when I was a kid. Because I remember the day it came out, I was waiting at the record store an hour before it opened, got it, went home, listened to it, wore this thing out, right? And of course the videos on MTV and everything like that. But now when I listen to it, it almost feels like a slice of life of the domestic life. Because Doing It All for My Baby and Stuck With You and those songs, I mean, it really felt like it came from a place where you're a rock star, now you're kind of into your family life, and it felt like
I think that's why
you guys were, yeah.
I think that's probably true. I mean, you know, in as much as songs are inspired by real life, my songs are inspired by real life, but they just start there. Yeah. And then I just exaggerate. I don't care about it. They don't necessarily, I just use the inspiration of real life. Yeah. And is that the case? Sure. But I mean, you know, just generally, since we began our band, I mean, the whole idea, the way I saw it is a timeless kind of a thing, not something that's time sensitive. So we kind of resisted any of those movements, be they punk or grunge or whatever they are, because the stuff because I'm old enough to remember that in the old days, the way to write a song was so that it was timeless, so that it would live forever. Yeah. And I didn't, you didn't want to make them time sensitive. And so having done that with all these tunes, I also had the realization, like 20 years ago when I turned to, 40s and whatever, I said, wow, these songs actually are more appropriate now than when we wrote them. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, this is, I was writing about this character that I've become. It's kind of interesting.
No, that's true. I could hear that. Stuck With You, another #1 hit. Great doo-wop song, kind of after the honeymoon, what marriage is like. And was that a little bit of an inspiration of that? Because I love how it talks about.
I mean, it's everybody who's ever been married. It's for all married people. Exactly. Adam Carolla calls it one of the 10 worst songs in rock and roll history.
Oh man, I don't believe that.
He says, "Stuck With You" is one of. He says, but he says, "Hard to Rock and Roll" is one of the 10 best. But he said, I said, wait a minute. If "Stuck With You" is one of the 10, I said, I got a bunch of songs way worse than that. I should have all 10.
Oh, no kidding. When you were working on the album, Chris Hayes wrote the music.
Chris wrote the song, the music.
The music.
But he gave it to me, and I dug it, and then I wrote the words.
Well, in the pre-chorus, another example of a great pre-chorus on that song. I love the lyrics on that. We're bound by all the rest, like the same phone number, all the same friends, and the same address. The other thing that you do so well that they don't really talk about in pop music is you are so great at like the nuances, syncopating the lyric to the melody. Because a lot of people try to force too many words.
Well,
and when you're writing a pop song, you are so good at like, and the same address, you syncopate it so well.
Well, you've hit on something that's really important, it's music and it's words, and the idea is to marry those two things perfectly. The first, in a lot of ways, the words have to be saying what the music is making you feel, number one. And number two, you're right, there's a musical quality to words. There's an audio quality to them. Some words are wonderful to sing, and some words just aren't. You know? And so that's why, king and queen, you hear a lot in rock and roll. It's great. They're great words to sing. Yeah. And they're great images and stuff. So, but I mean, it has to be, and some people err on the side, they just spout the lyric and don't care. Yeah. And that's a certain type. But I like that. That's a kind of an old school thing where the word, the sound of the word sings. The word sings.
Well, like in the second verse, when you say, we've had our doubts, we've never took them seriously. And then on the other side of the end of the second verse, you're saying, eventually it's back to you and me. And the way you say eventually, so I think Adam was wrong because it's not a rock and roll song. It's not the worst rock and roll song of all time. Or top 10 because it's not a rock and roll song. It's a doo-wop song.
It's really, yeah.
I mean, I love the you know, the news and what they bring to it. And of course, the video as a kid, I love that video because, of course, the pretty actress that was in it, but she was on.
She's Keely Smith.
Yeah.
Married to Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. And she was in a soap opera that my mom watched at the time.
Right. And I can't remember.
It was Guiding Light. I can't remember. But yeah, that's what I loved about the song. That was a theme to one of our I think it was a theme to our junior prom. Stuck With You. In the 90s.
Cool. Yeah,
anyway.
that was a fun video to make. We spent 3 days on Paradise Island in the Bahamas. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was on regular rotation, but now we can talk about Hip to Be Square.
You like Huey Lewis and the News?
They're okay.
For my money, if not the best rock song of the 80s, one of the best rock songs. I mean, it's just got so much energy from the drum hit, number 3 on the pop charts, number 1 on the rock charts. You had a lot of number 1 songs on the rock chart. I don't know if you realize how many songs. You had a lot of number 1 songs on there. But the song...
Well, there's every song's number 1 on some chart. There's always,
right.
You can always find a chart that you're number 1 on.
That song is connected, of course, to American Psycho and all that kind of stuff. And it felt like to me that you guys were poking fun at your image a little bit with that song.
Yeah. But the song was meant to articulate an 80s phenomenon that the David Brooks's book, Bobos in Paradise, articulated. People... bourgeois bohemians, bobos, bourgeois bohemians, people who grew up in Bohemia in the 60s, if you will, Bohemia, but it got too scary for them. And now they're older and they're dropping back in, cutting their hair and they're exercising and they're blah, blah, blah. It's hip to be square. It's hip to be square. That was the idea. And I originally wrote it in the third person. He used to be a renegade. He used to fool around.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be even funnier if I told on myself because we were all going through that. And unfortunately, a certain number of people didn't really get the joke and thought it was this anthem for square people, which I never intended it to be. But several very important people did get it in a real profound way. One of them was Luther Vandross, who contacted me about who'd had a relative who'd had real bad drug problems, and Hip to Be Square was kind of a message there for this kid and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty cool. It is what it is. These songs, you can only birth them, then they become these other things based on the times and the people and all that kind of stuff. So.
Well, of course, Bret Easton, and it's kind of tied.
And that's kind of a funny thing. That was we'd read the book, and I'd read his critique of our band and all that, and he had it just about right. I mean, he clearly was a fan and knew what he was talking about. Not only about us, but also Phil Collins and Tina Turner
and Whitney Houston.
And Whitney, I meant Whitney Houston. Big fan and really had a very good knowledge of
and that
what was
scene
going on.
in the movie is so great.
Right.
I think their undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square. A song so catchy.
So now they're going to make a film, and they asked us, would we, the song, of course, lent the song to the film. They paid us for it. And now, on the eve of the release of the premiere, like a week out, they say, how would you like to, we want to do a soundtrack. Well, again, the soundtrack was going to be our song. I think it's a Phil Collins song. And a bunch of source music. And mindful of our
experience in Back to the Future.
Said, well, we don't want our fans to have to buy this record for one song. What else is on there? Not much, says my manager. I said, well, do we have to do it? He says, no. Politely declined. Thanks, boom, no. Well, now they come out with a press release the day before the movie comes out that says Huey Lewis has seen the film, and it's so violent that he's pulled the tune from the sound, all of which was fabricated. And, kind of pissed me off a little bit. So I had to kind of boycott the film till we did our lampoon.
Well, that was great because you got a little bit of revenge there on that.
I think it's an undisputed masterpiece. A movie so entertaining, most people probably don't listen to the message.
And, they did the musical after the film.
American Psycho?
Yeah, which I saw in New York. And they used the song to close the first act. and they do the scene and they play the song, and it's fantastic. The musical's fantastic, I think. And that's a feat. How do you make a musical
out of American Psycho?
Well, they did, and it's really good.
Some of the lyrics in there, I love the second verse. I like my bands in business suits. I watch them on TV. Again, another great example of syncopating those lyrics so perfectly, because your energy on that vocal, and then Johnny's solo on that. Oh my gosh. The drum sound on that too. Where did that come from? Because that's got an incredible drum sound.
Well, that's kind of, it's aided. Where it's sampled a little bit. The kick and snare is sampled a little bit. Clear Mountain mixed that. Mixes all our records.
Oh, yeah.
And that one, that was kind of very, that was assembled a little bit. That we're played to a track there and all that kind of stuff. That was locked in pretty good.
And then the 49ers on background vocals.
Yeah, here, there, and everywhere. Joe Montana,
Ronnie Lott,
Dwight Clark, Ronnie Lott, and Ricky Ellison.
I love it.
And curiously enough, that's the first song that they sang. Let me get this right. Was it? Yeah. And so now we put them on I Know What I Like. And they're great on that. So now on the next album, when we're doing a couple days off, it would be great to have them on that. Well, we can't because they're in camp or wherever they are. So we'll do it ourselves. And we went out there and tried, 3 or 4 of us, a bunch of people, and tracked it up and stacked it, but it sounded like a bunch of little high school kids. 4 49ers.
Yeah.
Sounds like 25 of us, because they have these big.
Oh, yeah.
So we went up to the 49er camp and sampled them going, couple days off, and then put that.
And that
on.
was it.
Couple days off.
Sesame Street too. Hip to Be Square was covered on
Hip
Sesame
to Be A
Street.
Square.
It's hip to be a square.
Got to talk about Jacob's Ladder, because that was another #1 hit. Bruce and John Hornsby, and I talked to Bruce about this, and he told me about it. There's always a story out there that you guys met when you were golfing. But you didn't meet when you were golfing. You met, they had a song, Let the Girls Rock, and you guys were maybe going to, tell me about that.
I had a song, I got pitched this song called Let the Girls Rock, same publisher that pitched Heart and Soul. And I love the song. I said, it's great, but for me, lyrically, I'd have to change it a little bit.
Yeah.
He says, well, you got to meet this guy because he's a great guy and you love him. And maybe you can work there. Maybe he doesn't mind. I said, great. So I met Bruce and I said, man, I love your song, but I'd have to change it. He says, well, actually, he says, I'm really trying to get a record deal. And this is my #1 song. I said, I get it. I said, well, fine. Let me see what I can do. And so I touted Bruce up and down the street and got turned down by everybody, Even though my records were like #1 at the time, I'm still bitter about it. Literally. I bring Bruce Hornsby in.
I know.
I have record executives telling me, Huey, whatever you want to do, you're the man. My record's #1. I'm the man. Whatever. If you got anybody else you want to bring to the company, give us the first shot at it, Huey. So I bring Bruce Hornsby.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Bruce Hornsby.
I know.
And get turned down by everybody on the street. Right?
That's incredible.
So that now he does, I said, Bruce, sorry, but so he goes to make a piano album with, for that piano label, Winston,
Wyndham Hill.
Wyndham Hill.
Yeah.
And the head guy at RCA hears it and goes, wow, let's make a record on this guy. And signs him. And then he calls me and says, will you produce my record? I said, Bruce, you don't need me to produce your record. He says, yeah, but it'll help to have your name. And I said, cool, I'm in. Yeah. But how about I was busy. How about I do like 3 songs? That way you get my name and I don't have to spend for weeks. You're great, no problem. So we go to, and so I play through those songs at Jacob's Ladder. I said, man, but he had it written bone. So I said, I got another idea for another arrangement in mind for that. How about this? He goes, you do it that way. I said, tonight's good. Nah, all right, whatever. So we did our 3 songs, and we never cut Jacob's Ladder. So I said, screw it, we'll do it. So we cut it.
And their version is real piano based and more R&B.
Right.
You guys are straight ahead rock and roll.
That's it. I tried to turn it into a rock and roll song.
Yeah, and it also, what I loved about that song was right in the middle of like Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker and the whole Evangelist.
Oh, John wrote the words. John.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful. They're really good.
And the way you say that, all I want for tomorrow is get it better than today. And then, talking about that part, sing along, send some money, join the chosen few. It's almost as perfect for today as it was back then.
And they're both from Virginia, right?
Oh yeah.
So that they know about that stuff down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I remember
most of those evangelists, a large portion of those evangelical TV shows come from right there where they're at.
Yeah. Yes. And it also, Dave Jenkins sang background vocals on that. I read on the liner notes. Yeah. I just was with him last week.
On our record?
Yeah, on Jacob's Ladder. It says on the liner
notes. On our
notes.
record?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I'm learning things about my own records.
Someday we're going to get back together. We're going to talk about Small World because I love that record and talk about Hard at Play because another one of the great rock songs, in my opinion, Couple Days Off. It's just so much power in that thing. I want to ask you about the new record, While We're Young. I love that song. Great lyric, and I love the basis of the song because at my age, I want to hear pop music that speaks to me.
Right.
And what it is it's talking about you still have fun when you're getting older. But I love one of the lyrics, do you remember when not so long ago what we had was time and the future, all we had was time, and the future was the last thing on our mind.
Right.
And then it's got a line from It's a Wonderful Life in there as well. Youth is wasted on the young.
Oh, is that from A Wonderful Life? I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah. So tell me about that song.
What we're trying to do it's pop music. It's popular music. It's not jazz. It's not classical. This is popular music. So you got to. It's relatable. It's a communication. It's a messagey kind of a communication thing. Popular music. So it's important that it resonate with so what you're trying to do really is reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's exactly what you're trying to do. It's a haiku, this thing, pop music. And now we're trying to do that for people our age. And that's a tough thing to do because we're not as interesting as we once were, and there's not as much going on.
Somewhere you said nobody cares what a 60-year-old has to say. I don't think that's true.
Well, that may not be true. We're trying.
Yeah.
But the idea is that songs need to be about something. Mm-hmm. Popular music needs to be about something that's what we're trying to do. Make popular music that's not just talked down. That's smart enough to be clever enough to be entertaining and have food for thought a little bit is the idea, so just so it's not dumb, you know what I'm saying? It's popular, but not dumb.
Last question, it's a two-parter. All the songs that you've done, if you were to gift the world a double A-side, 45 record, one song on each side of all the songs that you've ever done that are like, this is what Huey Lewis and the News is to our fans. Like, if you were to gift that to the world, what would those two songs be?
Those two songs be? Well, that's pretty tough. I mean, it's got to be Power Love because it's their biggest hit. But what would, and it's great. Power Love, when we cut Power Love, because, we write them and then we produce them, so you don't really know where you are with it. You're just trying to push it along. And so, but I'll remember, and Sean, a keyboard player, he's got a wonderful objectivity because he's always lived in Aspen or Minneapolis, and he's not as connected. And we do kind of the heavy lifting and the recording, and he comes into overdub or whatnot. So when we were doing the vocal on Power Love, we just finished it, and we were back in the Studio D over there at Record Plant, and Sean came in to put on a keyboard part, and he walked in, and I was just listening back to the vocal, making sure we'd had it down and everything, blah, blah, and we finished, and I remember being in it like that, and he looked, stops, he goes, you know what? He said, what? It's the best thing we've ever done. I said, really? He says, absolutely, best thing we've ever done. I said, cool.
Yeah, you had to know.
I didn't know. I had no clue. I had nothing. I had no clue. I'm so in it, I have no idea what the best thing we've ever done is always the new song.
And last of all, looking back on your professional and personal life,
right,
or at this moment right now, what are you most grateful for?
Wow. Well, my health. At this age, it's the health. I mean, we lost Tom Petty. We lost, just zillions of guys.
Bobby
Bobby the Kind, Ron Stallings, our saxophone player, gone. Just zillions of people. David Bowie, Glenn Fry, good pal.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to be healthy and singing, and our band, we might be better than ever. I've said that forever, but we're certainly as good as we've ever been. And, so knock on wood.
Well, knock on wood. Well, I meant it when I said it. You're so relatable to people out there, like to the regular Joes, to me, to people who come to your show every night. And I think that's what's different from the 4 other people in '84, the Michael Jacksons and the Princes, is that you're relatable. You just are. And I want to tell you, it's not every day you get to sit down with one of your musical heroes and tell them that thank you so much for the music. It's been a through line, like I said, from my dad to me, and now to my own kids who love your music as much as I did when I was that age.
That's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
That's wonderful. Thanks.
Huey
Appreciate
Lewis.
it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.